Good morning, students. We were learning about the experiments on photosynthesis. In experiment number 1, I explained that in the previous class. Once again, to remind you, I am telling it again. You see, here, first experiment is to show that chlorophyll is necessary for photosynthesis. Here, a particular leaf is taken, that is variegated leaf, that have only at a particular part only it have chlorophyll. So that after the experiment, you know that first step for the experiment is destarching the leaf. Destarching, removing the starch by keeping the plant in dark for 48 hours. Then we place the plant 2 or 3 hours in good sunlight. Then after plucking the leaf, you can see that the variegated leaf have chlorophyll only at certain parts. You can see a design on it. Then after giving the conditions for photosynthesis, we can do the test for starch. In that we can see that only that part have chlorophyll show the presence of starch. That blue black color we can see in the place where the green is green in color. In the second experiment, we can see that the sunlight is necessary for photosynthesis. Here, in the experiment, same destarching, all the process is doing. Then again, placing a black paper to prevent the sunlight. Then after keeping the plant 2 or 3 hours in sunlight, then plucking that particular leaf and do the starch test. From that we can understand that the part got the sunlight only show the blue black color. The remaining part show brown color. So it show the sunlight is necessary for photosynthesis. Then experiment number 3 that I didn't explained in our last class. Here the destarched plant leaves are taken. Here it is an twig that is intact with the plant. That is not a cut branch, but the plant, that branch is attached to the living stem. That is a part of the living plant. The twig is attached to the plant. Then we are doing the experiment by inserting a half part of the leaf into a particular flask known as the conical flask. Here you can see a particular chemical is present in the flask, that is potassium hydroxide. The potassium hydroxide is the chemical that can absorb the carbon dioxide, so that the carbon dioxide will not be present inside the flask. The other factors like the chlorophyll, sunlight, or the water is getting through the twig. The stem is attached to the plant, so water also will be available to the leaf. Through the stem, the leaves getting water. Then keeping the plant 2 or 3 hours in the sunlight, we can do the test for starch. Here you can see the part outside that flask show the blue black color. The other part after the experiment should show the brown color, but here in the picture in the other experiment it is shown as brown color, but here it is not shown like this, but really that part also must be brown in color, and the part outside that got the sunlight, carbon dioxide and water, the photosynthesis happened in that part, so it show the blue black color. Then another modification of that same experiment is you can see on its side. Here half of the leaf outside the bottle will show the presence of starch. Same modification we can see in the B, in the picture B. Then again another experiment, experiment number 4, to show that oxygen is produced during the photosynthesis. Then in the experiment number 3, certain question may be there. What is the role of potassium hydroxide? Then what is the aim of the experiment? Are the questions that can be asked for the experiment number 3. Then again here which is the control experiment? Control is the half of the leaf that is kept outside is the control experiment. Only half part is introduced into the flask, the other part remain outside. That is the control experiment of in here. Again experiment number 4. In the 4 we can see the experiment number 4, its experimental setup we can see. Here a hydrilla plant is taken, a water plant that is covered with a funnel. You can see a funnel inside it. Then we can see an inverted test tube that containing water inside it. The test tube, the whole part of the test tube must be filled with water. We can see such an experimental that when we keep this plant and experimental setup in open place getting sunlight, we can see bubbles are coming from the hydrilla plant. Sometimes the question may be asked, what is the plant, which plant is used inside the funnel? You can see the hydrilla. Another name was also there. You notice this name. Once the question, which plant is used in the experiment, there was a question in previous 2 years back. Which is the plant, Elodia or hydrilla? It is easier. You write the mostly their expected question is hydrilla. It is better to write hydrilla than Elodia. Elodia or hydrilla you can write which plant is used inside the funnel. Then after 2 or 3 hours you can see the gas formed and is collected at the tip of the test tube. You can see an inverted test tube there and oxygen gas. The gas collected will be the oxygen. How we can confirm it as a oxygen gas? A glowing splinter നല്ലോണം ആളിക്കത്തുന്നു, burst into flame. You can see if you put a matchstick, introduce a matchstick into the test tube, that will burst into flame. That flame will become large when we introduce a burning matchstick into the test tube. That will be we can prove that the oxygen, you know that oxygen help for burning. So from the experiment we can understand that the gas collected is oxygen. Plants produce oxygen during photosynthesis. Sometimes once it is asked to draw the experimental setup, then at that time oxygen is produced in photosynthesis. That experimental setup, this picture 2 years back, it is asked to draw the picture. Then one thing at that time, specifically at that time I participated in the valuation. At that time there was a strict instruction from the board that funnel tip and test tube should show separately. Then only we could give the mark. So when you draw the picture, such things you must be careful that funnel tip and test tube must be shown separately. Some of the children, the test tube and funnel, they drew it in a joint way. They couldn't show or draw the diagram it separately, so they lost their mark. Such things you must be careful about. Then, importance of photosynthesis. We know that it provides food for all and it provides oxygen. You can see that the plants are producing oxygen that are consumed by the primary consumers. Primary consumers are herbivorous animals like grasshopper or rabbit or rat. Such animals are herbivorous animals, and again you can see the energy that is produced, or glucose that is produced by the plant, is transferred to the first or primary consumers or herbivorous. Then again they may be eaten by the secondary consumers, that are carnivorous animal. Rat may be eaten by a snake, or a grasshopper may be eaten by a lizard. So energy may be transferred from one group of animals, primary consumers, to the secondary consumers. Then again there are tertiary consumers also. They are carnivorous. They are also carnivorous. Like sometimes snake may be eaten by a hawk or an eagle. So energy from one organism to another organism, energy may be transferred. That process is known as food chain. Such a transfer of energy from one tropic level to another, such a transfer of energy is known as food chain. Sometimes this may be interconnected. Many of these interconnected food chains are known as food web. Here you can see certain food chains. You can see here, corn is eaten by rat, rat is eaten by snake, then the hawk. Many type of food chains you can see here. Then sometimes the food chain, many of the food chain may be interconnected. In such cases it is known as food web. Then again we can see another thing in our environment, that is known as carbon cycle. You know that the atmospheric carbon dioxide contain the element carbon inside it. The element carbon is present in the carbon dioxide. When plant fix this carbon dioxide, when they make glucose, we know that when plants produce glucose, you know that the formula of glucose C6H12O6. Then so carbon may enter into the glucose molecule. When plants do photosynthesis, they use carbon dioxide of the air to produce carbohydrate. Then through the food chain, this may be transferred from one organism to another. From herbivorous to carnivorous, the energy may be transferred from one trophic level to another. Then at that time, this carbon may pass from one organism to another. From plants, this carbon in the carbon dioxide or in the glucose, that may pass from plants to animals. Then again, when we respire, we know that when we respire, carbon dioxide is exhaled by us. All the carbon dioxide is released by the oxidation of glucose molecule, so that the carbon dioxide again become free and enter into the atmosphere. Then in another way also carbon dioxide again enter into the atmosphere. That is the decay of dead animal and plant body. We know that bacteria and fungus, they are the decomposers. They may decompose or degrade the animal body. At the time of decay, carbon dioxide and many and other gases like nitrogen, etc., released into the atmosphere. Then in that way also carbon dioxide again enter. At the time when we exhale carbon dioxide after the respiration, it is the waste material that may come out when we exhale. Then the death and decay also cause. When animals die, the carbon that is locked inside the body of plants and animals, that also may be released into the atmosphere. Then in another way known as the combustion or burning, when animal and plant body, when we burn the firewood or when we use the petroleum or the natural gas, it is burned and it is again entered into the atmosphere. Then another way, it is the heating of the limestone. Limestone ചുണ്ണാമ്പുകല്ല് എന്ന് പറയുന്ന സാധനം. When heating the limestone, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ നീറ്റ് കക്ക എന്ന് പറയുന്ന സാധനമാണെങ്കിലും ലൈംസ്റ്റോണിന് ഇക്വലാണ്. When we heating the limestone, at the time also the carbon dioxide is produced and it may released into the atmosphere. This is known as carbon cycle. You can see a diagram here. Atmospheric carbon dioxide in the air. You can see the plants do photosynthesis. The producers use this carbon dioxide in the atmosphere to produce glucose. Green plants make the glucose. Then carbon dioxide may be present in the glucose molecule. Then it may be transferred to the consumers by when animals eat the plants. It is again decomposing bacteria. They may release some of the oxygen, carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. Again you can see by the respiration, when plants respire or death and decay, etc., again carbon dioxide return to the atmosphere. You know that again some of the plant and animal body may get fossilized. You know that what is fossilization? Sometimes by the earthquake or the falling of certain mountain area, or the soil may happen to fall on animal and plant body and they may get buried deep down under the earth. Then by the pressure and the heat, that may be transferred into petroleum or coal, etc., may be produced by the fossilization. When we know that the petrol or oil or natural gas, when it burn, it again release carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. That is combustion. When petroleum, fossil fuels or coal, when they burn, because of the combustion, it again enter into the atmosphere. Again limestone also, when it heat or burning the lime kilns, it may be again carbon dioxide may be enter into the atmosphere. This is the carbon cycle you have to learn. Then I shall give you the question answer on the WhatsApp. I shall send the question answer. Thank you for listening the class.